I'm Olivia and welcome back to my channel.
Won't stop the beat to go.
In today's video we're going to be making this gorgeous skirt, so stick around to the end to see how it was done. So before we get started with crocheting all the squares together, I just want to say I have made a tutorial on how to do these squares. I mentioned briefly that you would need a lot of squares. To be exact, you'd need 56 squares to make this crochet skirt. So you'll need 28 panels for the front, 28 squares for the front panel and 28 squares for the back panel. That I'll put in the description how many balls of yarn and grams are used in total. So before you get started, check out how to make these squares, and then now once you've done all your squares, we're going to crochet them all together, and I'll show you exactly how it's kind of going to look before, or how to lay them out before we get them going. So I just did this front or back panel off camera, and I just wanted to show you that it's 4, the width is 4 and the length is 7. So it makes 28 squares. I'm just going to show you how to do this now. So yeah, let's get started. I just want to explain something before we get started. So you can see with all these squares, they look unworked, right? And that's because they are unworked. But we're going to finish them off by doing the framework round, which will be our border, while joining the squares together. So I'm just going to start by making a slip stitch, and I've got my 4 squares here, and I'm just going to catch a slip stitch with my needle, and we're going to chain 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see we're starting in the corner here, and we're going to do a V-stitch, which is a double crochet, which we did chain 4 for, then a double crochet, and now we're going to do the corner, so we chain 2, 3, and then do another V-stitch, which is double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into that single crochet. So by now you should recognize the pattern, because you should have made 50 of these squares by now. So now we're going to chain 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to do a V-stitch in that single crochet. 1 and a double crochet, then chain 5, 1, 2, and then a V-stitch in this gap here, and chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 5. Then we're going to do a corner, so that's 1 V-stitch, so that's a double crochet, chain 1, and then a V-stitch, that's 1 V-stitch. Then we're going to chain 3, 2, 3, and make another V-stitch. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Then we're going to chain 5, then do V-stitches until the corner where, you'll do your corner V-stitch, and then we'll work down. So we'll just do all of this until this corner, and I'll meet you when we're there. So we have worked 3 sides of the square, and we're going to leave this like that. So only 1 V-stitch into that last corner. Now we're going to chain 1, 2, and we're going to join the next square onto this square. So what's going to happen is we're going to do 1 double crochet. So we're basically making a V-stitch here, but we're going to join with a slip stitch, And then we're not going to chain one because you know usually in between each V-stitch we chain one, but we're not going to do that. And then we're going to do a double crochet. So you can see we've kind of joined in between the V-stitches. Now we're going to chain 2, 1, 2. And we're going to go into the 4th stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, through there. And the 4th stitch on the other square, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to slip stitch. Then we're going to chain 2, so 1, 2. And then we're going to make a V-stitch again, but before finishing the V-stitch, so we do 1 double crochet, join with a slip stitch, and then 1 double crochet again, and then we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then go into the 4th stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4 with a slip stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch, then chain 2, 1, 2, and then V-stitch, then join with a slip stitch, and then do another V-stitch into that single crochet. And then we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and I just need to explain why we're chaining 2, because remember when we do this framework round, this chain here is chain 5. So you've got 2 double crochets, the slip stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, counts as a stitch, so that's already 3 single crochets, and then you do 2, 1, 2, so it counts as 5. I hope that makes sense. Then we do a double crochet, and then a slip stitch, and then a double crochet. And now what I need to explain is that these corners are going to stay open. So after you've done your first V-stitch, you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and you're going to do another V-stitch into that single crochet. And then we're going to work our way around like we normally would, around and down. And then I'll meet you once we are going to join the next square. So we're doing our last V-stitch in this corner here. Then I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2, and we're going to take our next square and join. You can see here, go that corner. I'm going to just twist the square, make a double crochet. Then we're going to join with a slip stitch into the V-stitch, then make another double crochet, and then chain 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that 4th stitch, make a slip stitch, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then chain 2, 1, 2, then we can make a V-stitch, 1 double crochet, join with a slip stitch, and then make another double crochet. And then you know what to do with, actually I'll go up until the corner and then I'll meet you once we have joined the other square and we're going to start the next row. So now we have worked that last V-stitch. You're gonna chain 2, 1, 2, and then we're gonna join into the other square with a double crochet, and then we're gonna join the double crochet, and then another double crochet, chain 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch, and chain 2, 1, 2, and we're just gonna continue this until we at the corners. Then we're going to chain 2, leave the corner open and work the corner. So you join that with the first V-stitch, then you do your chain 3, then you do your other V-stitch, and then we're going to work our way across to this side, well, this corner. So we have finished, well, we are at the end there of the side, and we are going to leave the corner unworked as opposed to this side, which is worked. So now what you're going to do is you're going to chain 2, so we're going to go 1, 2, and we are going to join these squares on to our row like this, and I'll show you how we are going to do that. So we are going to take our square, and I'm just going to twist my square. We're going to do a double crochet into that corner, and I'm just going to flip my work. Then we're going to slip stitch, and then make another double crochet, then chain 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then that 4th stitch on both sides. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You're gonna slip stitch, then you're gonna chain 2, and then we're gonna make our V-stitch, and then you're gonna slip stitch into that V-stitch there to join, and then make another double crochet into that chain. See, so you're basically joining the exact same how you joined these rows here, and I'll meet you once we are in that corner. So we are joining into that first V-stitch there that we are coming to. Then what we're going to do is chain 1, and you see we left the corners open. We're not working the corner there. Work into the opposite corner, and you're just going to do a slip stitch. Now we're going to chain 1, and we're going to grab our next square, and we're going to do the exact same thing. So double crochet, slip stitch, double crochet, that's our V-stitch, then chain 2, 1, 2, then 1, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch into that 4th stitch on either side, then chain 2, then we do our V-stitch. And what happens when we do our V-stitch is that we join with a slip stitch after the first double crochet, then you do your second double crochet, and then you chain 2, you go 1, 2, then you join with a slip stitch into the 4th stitch. And I don't know if I've mentioned why we're doing a slip stitch is because we're anchoring down that chain 5. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. Like, you know, when you did the other rows for the square, you anchor down the chain 5 with a single crochet. We're anchoring with a slip stitch because we're joining. Then we 1, 2, and then join with that first double crochet, first V-stitch, then chain 1 and join to the opposite corner with a slip stitch, and then you get your next square and we join. So we're going to do this until the end of this row, and then I'll show you what we're going to do. So I don't know if you can see, but this is our last square that we've joined on, and we need to work into that corner, and we're going to slip stitch, then we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to make the next corner, by doing the V-stitch there. So I just need to explain that this side here, you have to join the corner. We're not adding on any squares, so that means the corner remains closed. So you work into that corner and you join it by doing a slip stitch. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to crochet normally like we would doing the framework round. So chain 5, do your V-stitch, chain 5, V-stitch, chain 5, V-stitch, and you do your corner, so you chain 3, then another V-stitch, then all the way across, and then down, and I'll meet you when we're there. We're working into the corner, so you chain 1 and then do another double crochet. Then what you're going to do is we're going to chain 1, and remember, we work into the opposite corner. This corner is still open and unworked. So what's going to happen is we're going to now join this square to the opposite corner with a slip stitch. Then we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to make a V-stitch here, and then join with a slip stitch into that opposite square. And then, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, but we are joining up this square. So we have to just do another slip stitch, then chain 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, then find the 4th stitch. That's not the 4th one. 4th stitch there. Chain 2, 1, 2, then do double crochet, and then slip stitch into, in between that V-stitch, and then double crochet, and then chain 2, 1, 2, find the 4th stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then slip stitch, then chain 2, and then double crochet, and then you chain 2, 1, 2, and then find the 4th stitch, slip stitch, 1, 2, slip stitch into that V-stitch, make another V-stitch into that gap into that single crochet. And then now we're gonna leave the corner unopened, like unworked, so we're gonna leave it open, and then you chain 3, then you do another V-stitch, and then that's how we got our square. You work up the square, across the square, down the square, and then when you're working up this side of this new square, you join while working up the square. Then I'm just going to explain to you what you're going to do. You're going to work across as per normal, then work down as per normal. When you get there into this corner, so you'll do your V-stitch, then you'll chain 1, join to the opposite corner with a slip stitch, chain 1, and then while you're working up this square, you will join simultaneously to that square like I've shown you the last few times. Then you work up and join, across, down, then join, then work up this square and join, then across, and I'll meet you over there. So we have crocheted and joined up the squares, down, across, up, and we've come to the end now. And what I'm going to do is now we're going to join on the 3rd row like we did when we did that 2nd row of squares. So I'm just going to flip my work around and you can see what we're going to do. And this is going to be my last time explaining crocheting the squares by joining them on the bottom row. Because you can just go back and it will be, it will just be better if you go back, because it's just a repetition of the pattern. So you're going to chain 2 and we're going to do a double crochet into that single crochet and be working into the corner, and then we're going to slip stitch in between the V-stitch. And then you're going to finish the V-stitch for this bottom square with a slip stitch, with a double crochet, Now we're going to chain 2, so we're going to go 1, 2, and then we're going to find the 4th stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to do the same for the other square, and we're going to slip stitch. Then we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then we're going to make 1 double crochet. Going to make 1 double crochet. And then join with a slip stitch. And then we're going to make 1 double crochet. And then chain 2, find the 4th stitch, slip stitch, and then slip stitch, then chain 2, 1, 2, and then join, then do a double crochet, chain 2, find the 4th stitch, slip stitch, chain 2, and then double crochet, slip stitch into the V-stitch on the opposite side, and then we are going to leave this corner unworked, so you're going to chain 1, then join to the opposite corner with a slip stitch, and then you're just going to do this whilst joining all the other squares, and then once you've joined the squares, you're going to work. So I'm just going to flip my work around and show you again. So the squares, you're going to just continue doing this pattern, joining the squares across. Like so. So here's your 4 squares. So you'll join on this row here across, and then you will crochet up the square, across, down, join to the opposite side, work up and join simultaneously, work across, down as per normal, then join across, and then work up the square whilst joining simultaneously, and then work across, then down, then join to the opposite corner, then work up, across, and then when you're on this side, you join your next row. So you'll be doing this pattern for 7 rows, and I'll meet you once we have done 7 rows of this pattern. So I just want to show you what we are going to do now. So we've on our last row of our squares, so which means we have to join at the corners. So you'll slip stitch into the corner, then chain 2, 1, 2, and just continue as per normal. So doing your double crochet, chain 1, and then double crochet, because it's the corner. So you'll basically, instead of leaving the corner open, you're just going to join it with a slip stitch, and we'll do that for all the squares until we are at this corner here. So I'll meet you then. Okay, so you can see we finished working the square here, and the side is open, and from this granny, well, for this square, this side here is open. So what's going to happen is this open side, you're going to flip this over, this open side is going to be close together to this open side to this closed side. So we're going to, while working this corner, we're going to be joining it to this square, but only to like there, or like how short you want it. And then for this panel of the skirt, we're going to be crocheting it to the worked panel of this skirt. So this is why we left the panels open, so we can work them together whilst joining them, and there's just like less strings around. So I will explain to you quickly how to do that. Okay, so you can see we have done our last little framework stitch in that corner, and then so what we're going to do now is join to the other square, which is the wrong way round, is facing us, and then this square, the right way, is facing us. So we're going to take a slip knot into that corner, and then we're going to carry on with the rest of the corner. So do a double crochet, and then join with a slip stitch to that corner, and then double crochet into the corner. So it's basically what we've been doing the whole entire time. So joining into the corners and not joining into the corners, slip stitching while working. So we do 2, then get the 4th stitch, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, slip stitch. So we're going to do this all the way until there, or however long you wanted it. If you want the whole entire skirt joined, then you do continue this to the bottom of the square over here. So you're going to do this for however long you want your skirt to join. So I'll meet you once I have done mine. Well, done how long I want it. So I'll meet you then. So actually, before I meet you when I'm finished joining to how long I want, I just want to show you how to join the corners, because you can see we've got 2 unworked corners there and then a work corner there. So I'm just going to go into that middle gap there on both sides. So you can see where we did the slip stitch from the previous row where we joined those V stitches. Go in between there and in between there on the other side and slip stitch. Then I'm going to chain 1, 2, or you can just chain 1, and then work the corner. So you'll do your 1 framework and then join to the other V-stitch there, and then make the rest of your V-stitch. Okay, then you chain 2 and then find your 4th stitch, and then the same there, and then we're just going to continue this. So I've only joined for 2 rows, for 2 blocks of squares, as you can see. And now what's going to happen is I'm going to continue working. So I'm going to chain 2 this side of the square. So do your double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and we are no longer joining to the side of the square. But if you are joining all the way to the bottom of the square, continue joining how we did here. But just because we aren't joining anymore, we are going to be chaining 5 and then 3, 4, 5, and then you're going to just work it as per normal. So you'll do your double crochet without joining. So I hope that makes sense, and I'll meet you once we are at the bottom of the side of the square. So now we're just coming to the end of our skirt, and what you're going to do is you're going to work the corner. So you do 1 framework, 1 V-stitch, chain 3, then make another V-stitch into the corner like we've been doing the entire time. So I just went into the wrong stitch there. Then we're going to work our way across like we have been doing. We're going to work across to this corner, and you'll end with a chain 5 there, because you can see we already worked the 2 V-stitches. So I'll meet you when we're at the corner. And then we've chained 5, and then we're going to do a slip stitch into that last V-stitch that we did, and then we're going to cut off the yarn. And you're going to do the exact same thing that you did on this side to the other side. So I'll meet you once I've done the other side. I'm just going to do it off camera. So yeah. Oh, and then also you want to weave away this yarn so it's just not like hanging around, you know. So you just weave it in so you can't see. So I'll meet you once I've done the other side off camera. So now that we have crocheted the front and back panels together, we are now starting with the waistband, where I'm going to explain what to do now. So you're basically making 5 double crochets in the shell, and then we're doing 1 single crochet, 1 double crochet in that V-stitch, and then we continue making double crochets in the shell. So you can see I went into the 2nd stitch of the shell, and then I'm going along the top, and then I think I miss out the last shell, so the last stitch in the shell. So instead of doing 7, you do 5 double crochets, and then you do 1 in that V-stitch, and then 1 in the corner, and then we just continue this, and then also 1 in the join there, and then 1 in the corner again, and then we just continue this until you've worked around the waistband. So I just want to show you what we've done here. So for the waistband, I showed you how to crochet. This is basically double crochets into all those stitches there, and then double crochet, and then you for the next row, so 1, 2, 3, 4, the next 4 rows we decrease every 6 stitch. So you'll go 5 double crochets, then do a decrease. So you'll basically to do a decrease, you'll do half double, go through 1 stitch, then go through the other stitch, and then finish the stitch as if it were a double crochet. And if you struggle to understand that, I'll link a video so you can just see how to do that. And now that we've done the waistband, we have to put in the elastic. So we're going to do that now. And here is the final product. Thanks for sticking around and watching till the end.